after a car crash, my friend and I got reborn. In our past life, I was the desk mate of the aloof campus belle, Willow. He was the childhood friend of the wealthy heiress, Freya. Everyone at school shipped us, childhood sweethearts, evenly matched in every way. That is, until the delinquent transfer student showed up. The rich heiress skipped class to go joyriding with him and even washed her hands just to cook for him. The cold campus queen's savior complex flared. She was dead set on rescuing this delinquent. Little did they know, he was only using both of them as practice dummies. All because his true love had Willow's face and Freya's figure. Only then did everyone realize, my friend and I were just simps, stuck in unrequited love, the backup options left to clean up the mess. Chapter 1. After the joint mock exam, David and I got publicly roasted by the school. I got called out for my grades tanking like crazy. He got reported for messing with exam discipline. Our homeroom teacher tried to reason with me patiently. George, it's okay to slip up once, but you can't pull this in the college entrance exam. You're a senior now, you need to stay steady. David muttered like it was nothing. Yeah, no doubt. He's gonna be the top scorer anyway. The teacher's face stiffened. I haven't even gotten to you yet, David. Sleeping in the exam hall would have been bad enough, but wandering into other classes and disrupting discipline? You got any respect for me as your homeroom teacher? I clenched my test paper and sighed. Honestly, how could this be blamed on us? Who'd think we'd wake up reborn right in the middle of an exam, staring at test questions from 8 years ago? Anyone would be shook. I'd already pushed myself to the limit, filling every answer I could remember. Ranking top 2 was out of reach. David, on the other hand, thought he was on a film set. He strolled through classrooms, gushing about the set design, until he bumped straight into the principal. Boom, our names ended up on the public notice board. Cicadas screamed like mad. Camphor trees cast swaying shadows along the corridor. My thoughts snapped back. Through the half-open glass window, I saw my desk mate, this term's top student, Willow. She was bent over, tutoring Makoto, the new transfer student. Her pale neck swung like hair wisps veiling her brows. Fingers light on the pen. Maybe she sensed my stare. She paused mid-stroke and glanced over. Our eyes locked. Time froze for a few seconds, then the hot wind messed up my hair. Makoto raised an eyebrow. Willow, what are you staring at? She looked away, shook her head lightly. I stared at my palm, slowly clenching my fist, reconstructing the timeline. Second mock exam of senior year. Second month since Makoto transferred. By now, he'd met everyone and learned all he was supposed to. 1 week before Willow and I would have our first fight. 1 week later, she'd skip class with Makoto just because he wanted to show her fireworks at Rose Plaza. When I found out, I'd frown and say seriously, Willow, you seen the college entrance exam countdown on the blackboard? We'd been desk mates since middle school. 1 sentence, 1 glance, and we knew each other inside out. She'd coldly snort, so what? I've studied for years, skipped once. What difference is that gonna make? You worry about yourself, George. Best 2 out of 3, you already lost 1 round. But she didn't know, once the first slip happens, the second is easy. And that best 2 out of 3 thing? A bet we'd made since middle school. 3 exams equals 1 full round. Winner gets 1 request from the loser. In my last life, I lost that round too. 2 ties, then second place by 1 point. This time, my score looked even worse. I lifted my head, sure as hell. Willow, you ain't beating me this time. Chapter 2. The homeroom teacher droned on till dry. Finally, in a rare mercy move, he let us go back to class. As we stepped in, whispers buzzed around. Someone sighed dramatically, OMG, I've been shipping this evenly matched pair forever. Are we really heading for a bad ending? Another voice, it's fine. The childhood sweethearts ship I root for already ended badly anyway. A burst of girls' laughter from the corridor. We turned and froze. There she was, David's childhood crush, Freya. Fitted white athletic jacket, pleated skirt, wristband on her right hand, brushing wet strands of hair from her forehead. Sharp, lively eyes. Totally opposite of Willow's cool vibe. Freya scoffed, oof. You're in the way. arrogant tone, disdainful look. David in his previous life would have snapped, "This hallway isn't yours." But this was 8 years later David. He just shrugged, stepped aside. Her figure receded down the corridor. Whispers dropped. A week ago, Makoto skipped class with Freya. Some scuffle outside campus, she got hit near her brow. At home, she lied she'd fallen. David told her parents she skipped class. Enough for them to keep strict tabs on her. That night, Freya smashed the teacup David gave her and yelled, "Did I ask you to meddle? Stop pretending to be a good guy. It's disgusting. I know you told my parents because of me skipping class. Gross." David, heartbroken, smiled bitterly. Doc said if the wound was a hair off, I could have lost my eye. I patted his shoulder. Everyone walks their own path. Silent companionship sometimes speaks louder than words. Just like David and me in our stubborn, past lives. Just like the uncertain road ahead for Willow and Freya. If this were our last life, David would lower his head and apologize to Freya tomorrow night, ending their Cold War. That's how it always went. This time, I turned to David. He caught my look, ran a hand through his hair, smiled, free-spirited yet refined, like the future superstar with millions of fans. He said, "You know what they say, be a real man, not a simp." Chapter 3. To catch up, I shut out everything but textbooks and exams. Buried myself completely. Sometimes I tutored David. He'd frown, mutter, "Even if it's too late, I gotta try. Otherwise, I'll get roasted forever for my terrible grades. That's permanent shame." I wanted to cry but couldn't. My gaze drifted to the upper right of the folded test paper, the exam that might become the biggest stain on this second chance. Freya passed by for water, laughing mockingly. Had been average for years, now suddenly trying hard? So fake. I paused my diagram. David chuckled. Some people just stay in the trash heap their whole lives. I'm not one of them. I smiled. Yeah. Even after tanking, my score's still better than some people's. Freya wasn't bad. Just not top tier. In our past life, she got into university via art specialty. At the peak, David even publicly announced marriage. Fans lost it, but his skills held. Then news broke of Freya entering a hotel late with Makoto. Boom, trending #1. Youthful affection turned strangers. Freya rolled her eyes at my jab. "Oh really? Then why are you falling further and further behind, Willow?" I froze a bit. Only then did I notice the seat to my left had been empty since evening self-study started. It hit me. Tonight was the night Willow would ditch class with Makoto to catch the fireworks show. Normally, someone like Freya would have gone. But lately her parents had her on strict lockdown, and she was pretending to behave just to lessen her punishment. So Willow went instead. Well, she was basically school royalty, top grades, perfect character. Any teacher doing attendance would just assume she was on leave. Homeroom teacher? Wouldn't even blink. Skipping class was a piece of cake for her. Makoto? Dude had requested 3 days off, claiming some collective removal surgery of useless accessory tissue in the human head, aka getting his wisdom teeth yanked. After the final evening self-study bell, I stuck around for another half hour to finish the last math paper. David stayed with me. When we finally walked into the silent stairwell, bam, we ran into Willow packing her stuff. 8 steps apart. I'm up top, looking down. She's below, looking up. David clicked his tongue, trying to drag me away, but Willow shifted and blocked us. She looked at me and said, "George, aren't you gonna ask why I skipped self-study?" I smiled, chill as ever. "Willow, that's your biz. I don't interfere with your choices. Made the same mistake once. Won't let it happen again." David crossed his arms, confused, but with that teasing sparkle in his eyes. Listen to that. Just deskmates. Why would George care why you ditched self-study? This innocent word. Could mean a million things, or absolutely nada. Chapter 4. But even more ambiguous than deskmates? Sitting in front of or behind each other. Take Makoto and Freya. Unlike his polite, restrained way with Willow, Makoto's daily interactions with Freya were pure playful chaos. First, he'd hook the end of her ponytail with his pen. She'd glare, annoyed, but he just kept teasing her. Later, they played You Draw I Guess. Makoto would write characters on Freya's back. She'd guess. She'd spin around pretending to be mad. Makoto, you're cheating. That's obviously T, not that other one. He'd laugh helplessly. Alright, T it is. I looked away, but out of the corner of my eye, Willow was watching too. Her test paper? One question still blank halfway through self-study. David had once told me the backwriting game started when they were kids. Parents trying to quiet them down made them write characters on each other's backs. Whoever got more, got a red flower. Over time, it became their weird little tradition. But anyone could replace the other. The cicadas shut up. Summer's heat was finally easing. Yet with the college exam countdown, everyone craved little breaks for fun. Previously, people shipped Willow and me, silently tolerated by us. But they were betting whether Willow or Freya would snag Makoto. It all kicked off after PE class. Teacher had stuff to do, let us roam. Some kids chilled outside, others hustled back to study. Freya gossiped. Willow studied with Makoto. David and I grabbed a cola and headed back. Ran into Makoto downstairs, couldn't focus anymore. He grinned. Yo George, David, you guys like this too? Love it, man. Too bad my fam's broke. Can't afford it. Tragic. Liking something but can't have it? Worse. Guess I can only watch it become someone else's. I was just about to twist open the bottle and shove it at him when, bam! A soccer ball smashed the fire hose cabinet glass beside us. Reflexively, I grabbed David and pulled him away. Next second, Makoto screamed. Looked down, glass shard in his leg. Blood everywhere. Freya was first to him, panicking, eyes red. Shouting at David to move, she supported Makoto to the infirmary. Then Willow showed up. Something in her eyes, disappointment, like she'd seen through it all. I saw it. You had the chance to push him away, why didn't you? I clenched my hand, cut by glass too, and smiled. Willow, whether he gets hurt. Doesn't matter. Whether I help him. Not your business. And just like that, class betting pools formed. David drank his cola, laughed, bet neither ends up with Makoto. No one heard but me. And I agreed, I'd seen who Makoto truly liked. A girl with Willow's face, Freya's figure. Chapter 5. That girl? Makoto's secret crush before transferring schools. Super rich, drop-dead gorgeous, untouchable. Perfect bait for a guy used to feeling inferior. Then she was forcibly transferred, parents demanded it. Made him obsessed. His truancy? All to see her. Hair dye, street racing, acting like a rebel, hanging with shady folks, just for her attention. After exams in our previous life, Willow and Freya confessed. His response? A smug smile. Haven't we always been friends? Friends are more stable than lovers. Later, he won over the girl he originally liked. Willow froze seeing them together, shock, then grievance. Freya? Just a comfort substitute at some clothing store. Aloud. Thought you were Big Bro's sister-in-law, echoed. Makoto strolled over, arm around a smiling girl. Everyone greeted her warmly, sister-in-law. Freya's smile froze. After that, Makoto vanished. Heard he eloped and moved cities. 8 years later, Willow and I were together. Business booming, over 100 million fortune. Well, youngest master's supervisor after PhD. My proposal? Interrupted by Makoto showing up, injured but determined to confess one last time. I stood clutching the ring, watching Willow take him to the hospital. She even accused me of being heartless. Your classmates, how can you just watch him die? At that moment, I was a simp. To me, Willow was flawless. Didn't consider her words made zero sense. I'd already called an ambulance. Double standard? Laughable. Once I just gave a girl directions, Willow ignored me for a week, saying I lacked boundaries. But she insisted on taking Makoto to the hospital herself. Later, Makoto hospitalized. Willow's tenderness and care? Impossible to hide. Repeatedly stood me up, distant gaze, drifting thoughts, said it all. On another date, phone rang mid-dinner. I declined. Let's finish this meal, a dignified ending. She froze, panicked, George. I didn't argue. Finished soup, signaled the bill, stood up. Willow, next time we meet, no hellos? That night? She didn't go see Makoto. Don't know why. Next day? Trending. Freya entering a hotel late at night with a man, #1. David, live streaming his beautiful wife, became the internet's biggest clown. Memes everywhere, king of I'm fine after being cheated on. Unexpectedly, no one could get in touch with him. Until 3 days later he showed up at my place. David rubbed his temples wearily, his voice rough from exhaustion. I'm so tired, George. I really can't hang on anymore. I already gave her the divorce papers so they could be together. Why won't she agree? I let out a soft sigh and glanced at my phone, which kept buzzing. The caller ID showed Willow. Just as the car was about to exit the tunnel, the blinding light made me instinctively shut my eyes. When I opened them again, I was back 8 years ago. Chapter 6. Unlike the open hostility between David and Freya, Willow and I still kept a trace of decency. Occasionally, when a teacher called us up to tackle the trickiest final problem together, we'd set aside all grudges and discuss it like normal. Then we'd listen to the teacher's pep talk. You two aren't just competitors on the road to the college entrance exam, you're comrades side by side. After grinding for over 10 years, the finish line's right ahead. Don't let anything mess you up. I smiled and nodded. One perk of never stopping my grind in my past life? Coming back to senior year, I could pull out coursework buried deep in my brain. Once my grades bounced back, they were solid. The one who got hit? Willow. Her birthday was the day before the mock exam. After evening self-study, Makoto gave her a gift, a wristwatch snagged from a roadside stall. Some girls freaked out. Whoa, doesn't giving a watch mean a confession? Seriously? You're starting rumors over a cheap watch. Freya shot the speaker a super annoyed look, her gaze casually sliding over Willow's wrist. At crucial times, a distracted mind is the worst. I don't know if Makoto meant it as a confession, but Willow was definitely shook. After the exam, her rank dropped out of the top 10 for the first time. Multiple blank questions, no reason. As for me, after an all-nighter of relentless studying, I snagged first place. This round I won. For some reason, I suddenly remembered the request she had after her last win. Usually, her requests were simple: treat her to a meal or punish me with extra mock papers. Except that one time. My pen scratched across the page as I remembered that night. I had leaned back helplessly, asking her what she wanted this time. David mentioned a new roast goose spot near school. I'd already planned to take her there. After a long silence, just as I was about to ask again, she lowered her eyes and handed me a note. Her handwriting was as graceful as she was. In a soft voice, she said, I'll save this request until after the college entrance exam. Curious, I glanced at her. From her cheeks down to her neck, a huge patch of red had bloomed. I didn't know what she'd originally planned to ask, but it definitely wasn't the kind of request from our past life. Helping the person you like chase the person they like. Just thinking about it makes you want to smack yourself for being dumb. Later she confessed to Makoto. And failed. Just like in this life, she eventually learned Makoto's watch wasn't a confession at all, but as he said, I gave it to you before the exam so you could wear it in the exam hall. Wouldn't that help you manage your time better? He smiled that careless, slightly helpless smile. But didn't expect your grades to drop this time, he added jokingly. Willow, you're not blaming the watch I gave you, right? Of course, she wouldn't. But this time, the ones publicly criticized by the school and summoned by the homeroom teacher were her and Freya. Willow, for her abnormal grade drop. And Freya, because of Makoto. Chapter 7. It all started with a group fight. One side, students in school uniforms. Other side, idle troublemakers from the streets. In the crowd, Freya spotted Makoto. In the chaotic alley, Makoto was shielding a tear-streaked girl, fighting several men armed with tools. Freya had been trying to behave lately, and her parents had eased off the mandatory pickups. She only needed to get home on time. Freya had guts. The moment she saw Makoto, she ran at him without thinking and ended up taking hits alongside him. It wasn't until someone called the cops that both sides scattered. Before leaving, the other group brandished a baseball bat, menacingly. The ringleader spat, "Makoto, I won't let this slide." Freya wiped the grime off her face, asking Makoto anxiously if he was hurt. He smiled and shook his head, explaining he had just run into a girl he once considered a sworn younger sister, Sophia. 3 days later, Freya got a public disciplinary notice. The homeroom teacher called Freya and Willow into the hallway and lectured them. "One mistake isn't huge, but you can't mess up in the college entrance exam. Willow, I've always trusted you. This one doesn't count. Don't let it affect your mindset. As long as you stay steady, you can totally compete for top score." Willow kept her head down. Freya, half cute, half coaxing, said, "All right, teacher. Then it doesn't count for me either, okay? I won't let it mess me up. I'll crush the college exam." The teacher frowned, stern. "Whether Makoto studies or not, I don't care anymore. But you're different. With your grades, if you try, you can get into a good uni. Keep hanging around Makoto, and you'll regret it. Exam's almost here. I might call your parents." Freya pouted, arguing, they were bullying that girl. Makoto was standing up for her. "Teacher, can you stop hating him just 'cause his grades suck? I know studying is priority, but learning to be a good person matters too." Her reasoning was solid. Willow stayed silent. In the end, after Freya's pleading and dramatics, the teacher left frustrated. Makoto immediately appeared to thank her. A group of students ran by, one accidentally bumping Freya. She fell, clutching her ankle, gasping. Makoto crouched down, took off her shoe, and saw a big bruise forming. Next second, he lifted her to carry her to the infirmary, ignoring Willow. Freya beamed, snuggling into his arms. David and I walked by with colas, not noticing at first. Freya suddenly called, "David." David burped, turned, glanced at them and grinned. "Don't worry, I know nothing." She stared at him, then snorted softly. In our past life, Freya hadn't run into Makoto that day. That afternoon, the class had been playing fortune-telling cards. Freya and David drew cards predicting. One, shining across the 4 corners of the world. The other, fading into the sea of people. David's smile vanished, a crease forming between his brows. Freya laughed lightly, dismissing it. Chapter 8. As the college exam drew closer, the betting pool was almost over. Some were sure Makoto would confess to Freya after graduation, analyzing how well they matched, the classic campus pair, rebellious bad boy king and wealthy heiress. I tilted my head toward David, resting his forehead on one hand, pen in the other, marking his test paper. Maybe steady feelings get overlooked, or years of familiarity hide a racing heartbeat. Freya's attention gradually shifted to Makoto, the guy who could sweet-talk her and thrill her. Others thought the combo of cool, domineering king and aloof queen was just as common. Willow, for instance. Honestly, I never got how Willow liked Makoto. At first, she openly disliked students like him who slacked off. Makoto didn't care, instead asking her questions, seeking guidance with apparent humility. Unlike me, after every discussion, Willow and I just exchanged calm smiles. Makoto, though, kept surprising her with small gifts. Gradually, she got used to being around him. One evening during self-study, a brief power outage occurred. In the darkness, I heard a startled cry and muffled grunt. Seconds later, the lights came back on, and Willow was sprawled on top of Makoto. He helped her up. She bit her lip, flushed, apologizing. I went back to the final challenge problem. Out of the corner of my eye, Willow's pen hovered over her paper, motionless. By the time I finished, her steps were chaotic, the answers all wrong. Of course, beyond simple affection, when two girls like the same guy, jealousy breeds competition. In this rivalry, Freya was the first out. During the group fight, the other side threatened Makoto, but Freya got targeted. By the time news reached class, Freya was already in the hospital. It rained hard that day, the downpour drowning everything out. She'd been slapped so hard her eardrum perforated. The injury was serious enough to end her exam prep. Some classmates whom Freya had once helped, carrying water, moving desks, suggested swinging by the hospital. Makoto went too. When they got back, everyone's opinions shifted. No one believed anymore that the two of them would end up together. Word spread that Freya's mom, having learned about the earlier fight, had confronted Makoto at the hospital. His response? Shameless. With a careless grin, he said, "You're talking to the wrong person. Your daughter came to me on her own. How's that my fault? I wasn't the one who bullied her. What's it got to do with me? I just came as a classmate out of goodwill to visit. Why are you trying to pin this on me?" Someone asked how Freya reacted. Those who were there said she just lay against the hospital bed, quietly wiping away tears. She didn't say a single word, 'cause the truth was impossible to refute. Chapter 9. David went to visit Freya shortly before the college entrance exam. He went, 'cause his parents brought him. Freya had just woken up from anesthesia after surgery. In her hazy state, she saw David sitting by the bed, carefully peeling an apple. Her voice choked as she said, "David, I had a very, very long dream. In it, you rose to fame and became a huge star. But at the height of your popularity, you proposed to someone and registered your marriage." David replied simply, "Oh." Freya asked, "Aren't you gonna ask who that person was?" David smiled carelessly. "Freya, whoever it was, it wouldn't have been you." As her face turned pale and flustered, David placed the perfectly peeled apple onto a clean plate and stood up. "Actually, peeled apples aren't that great. They oxidize too fast. The freshness disappears quick." He'd learned to peel an apple in one continuous strip, 'cause of Freya. Like me, David had been a simp in our previous life. So when Freya once said, "I don't like apples, but I like peeled apples. I don't like shrimp, but I like peeled shrimp," he naturally went and learned these so-called boyfriend essentials. To peel an apple without breaking the skin, you gotta go super slow. But this useless skill would probably never be used again. After Freya left, the class gradually started assuming that Willow and Makoto would end up together. During breaks, you could always see her discussing stuff with him. So even though Willow and I were desk mates, the closest seats in the room, for a long time, we hardly had a proper convo. After I finished explaining a problem to David, he glanced at Willow, who was still explaining the same question to Makoto, and laughed. How many times has she explained that one already? Some people would rather think they didn't explain it clearly enough than admit the other person wasn't listening at all. My pen paused. I looked at Makoto, spinning his pen absent-mindedly, and recalled something from a few days ago. When I passed by an internet cafe, I saw Makoto, who in our previous life should have been lying in a hospital bed, standing outside with the girl he'd once shielded during the fight. They seemed to be arguing. In the end, the girl slapped him and stormed off. After that, Makoto began entering and leaving school together with Willow. My last convo with Willow happened after the final mock exam in our best 2 out of 3 bet. As expected, I won. On the eve of the college entrance exam, the classroom was empty. Willow and I stood side by side in the corridor, looking at the sports field bathed in sunset light. She tilted her head and asked, "Go on. What's your request?" On the track below, boys and girls in school uniforms ran in the fading light. I turned to look into her eyes and asked, "Willow, do you remember the request you said you'd save until after the college entrance exam?" She met my gaze and nodded. I pursed my lips slightly. "My request is simple. Never say the request you saved." She looked up at me, her expression complicated. The next second, Makoto suddenly appeared and called out, "Willow, let's go. I'll take you for a ride around the back hill." I watched her back as she left, then turned and walked the opposite way. The trajectory of this life had already changed. I don't know what request she'd have saved this time, but whatever it was, I didn't want to hear it again. In our previous life, after winning that bet, my request to her was to apply to University C together. It had always been our shared goal since the day we met. Though at the time, there was also a bit of gamble in it. One weekend afternoon before that, someone played those bygone years over the school broadcast station, sparking a wave of discussion about the plot. When the convo turned to the male lead giving up a 13-point final question for the female lead, the class argued endlessly. The boys said, What kind of top-tier simp would throw away his future for a girl? Many of the girls countered. He probably couldn't solve it anyway. He was just pretending to be devoted. Willow, however, looked wistful as she said, I think the fact that he quietly sacrificed something just to be together, that in itself is romantic, isn't it? One boy scoffed, I don't think sacrificing your future for someone else is right. And I definitely don't think it's romantic just 'cause a man sacrifices for a woman. In mainstream stories, men are always the sacrificer as if the world's being told that sacrifice is a man's natural duty. But why is it always the man giving things up? Why can't it be the woman sacrificing for the man? Willow argued back, I never said girls can't give. Sacrifice should be mutual. If it were someone I liked, I'd be willing to do the same. Hearing that, I hesitated. Back then, I was genuinely worried she might leave a question blank for Makoto. So I made that request with a 1% hope in my heart. Fortunately, she fulfilled it. Given a second chance, those bygone years played once more. Only then did I realize the reason she hadn't left any questions blank in our previous life might not have been because of our agreement at all. 'Cause in this life, without my request, she still carefully completed every single question, and got the same score as before. The regret? She proved herself with her score but expressed her feelings with her choice of university applications. Chapter 10. I found out that Willow had changed her university apps at the graduation party. I was accepting congrats from classmates on one side while consoling a sighing David on the other. Aside from Freya, who hadn't been able to take the exam, no one's scores had changed. I was still the top scorer. 1 point ahead of Willow. David held his score sheet, identical to the one from our previous life, and shuffled over with a long face. All that effort for nothing. I really thought being reborn would let me make a comeback. I smiled helplessly. If it worked like that, wouldn't every repeat test taker end up in a top uni? You hadn't touched a book for 8 years and came straight back to senior year. Matching your previous score is already impressive. Before I finished speaking, a wave of cheering erupted. Everyone was teasing Willow and Makoto. Now that we weren't students, people didn't hide their suggestive glances. Someone raised a glass toward them with a grin. Should I wish you both a bright future, or a happy marriage? Willow lowered her head, cheeks flushed. Makoto paused briefly, then waved his hands, telling everyone to stop talking nonsense. But students fresh out of the exam are fueled by limitless enthusiasm. The private room hit peak hype. People began chanting for the two of them to get together. Amid the cheers, Willow lifted her head and said shyly, Makoto, I heard University B has a freshman entrance challenge, and couples have a higher winning rate. Should we participate together? The room fell silent for a split second, then erupted into gasps and screams. Even David blurts out, Holy hell! Does that mean she gave up her guaranteed spot at University C and downgraded her app to University B? Before I could respond, the door to the private room suddenly swung open. A group of people crowded in, surrounding a woman. It was Makoto's sworn younger sister, Sophia, the one whose face resembled Willow's and figure resembled Freya's. The man at the front said awkwardly, Makoto, we really couldn't stop her. Everyone froze. The class monitor stepped forward, asking what they wanted. The woman ignored him and walked straight to Makoto. Another slap landed across his face. Makoto, is this how you take responsibility for me? Looking for a side chick behind my back? Who is she? When she raised her hand to strike again, Makoto grabbed her wrist, forcing a placating smile. Wife, it's a misunderstanding. Let's go back and talk. She snorted, turned her face away. Who's your wife? Makoto grinned and turned to his friends. They answered in unison, Sophia. Then chorused, Hello, sister-in-law. Makoto pushed Willow away when she instinctively tried to grab his sleeve. He gently rubbed the hand Sophia had used to slap him. Did that hurt, wife? Don't be mad, okay? How would I dare? It's all a misunderstanding. Isn't having you enough for me? A collective gasp rippled through the room. Sophia kept a tight expression, then lightly kicked him. Makoto wrapped an arm around her and turned back to the room sheepishly. Sorry, everyone. Seems like there's been a misunderstanding. This is my girlfriend. David burst out laughing. Leaning close, he whispered to me, if one person's illusion is a misunderstanding, what about a whole crowd's illusion? The time I showed off my relationship on livestream was clown enough. Didn't expect someone purer than that. I'm dying. If I ever can't carry on, I'll just live off this memory. The confession ended abruptly. Sincerity dissolved into farce. Color drained inch by inch from Willow's face. Suddenly I felt nothing but boredom. I avoided her panicked gaze and left with David. In this second life, the only thing that seemed unchanged was Makoto. He still eloped with Sophia and moved to another city. After that summer, we all scattered across the country. Next time we met was 8 years later, at an alumni reunion. Chapter 11. Just like before, David became a red-hot superstar. Scheduling conflicts meant he couldn't attend the reunion in person, but he donated $10 million to our alma mater as a centennial anniversary gift. Then an interview video of him played. The reporter asked sharply, netizens often mock your academic performance back in middle school. How do you respond to that? David smiled easily, looking straight into the camera with confidence. My best friend once told me that we have to allow for the fact that some people's talents simply aren't in academics. But what's important is this. No matter your talent, if you waste it too long, even heaven will take it back. For example, Willow. Hearing that name again felt like something from another lifetime. Our homeroom teacher sighed to me with deep regret. If I'd paid a bit more attention back then, maybe none of this crap would have happened. You'd never guess that girl was such a hopeless romantic. I heard after getting played by Makoto and missing out on University C, she was depressed for ages. Then one winter she got into a car accident. Waking up, she suddenly seemed clear-headed and decided to repeat her final year and retake the college entrance exam. But repeating a year is like being reborn. Rebirth doesn't promise a comeback. Repeating doesn't promise redemption. Cause and effect? There's inevitability and coincidence. Shift one little thing, and the result might never repeat. Plus, her transformation had been so sudden she was probably reborn too, but the time she had left was already short. Unlike in our last life, she didn't ace the exam and climb step by step to become a master supervisor. She failed. After one setback after another, she got crushed. The confidence and sparkle she once had? Gone. In the end, she had no choice but to swallow her pride and go to the university she'd always looked down on. I remembered getting a message the day I graduated from University C. It read, "One wrong step and you'll never reach the finish line again. Unknown number." I didn't reply. Alumni reunions are basically battlefields and a status marketplace. No one cares about past glory. They care about what you've got now. So it didn't shock me that neither Freya nor Willow showed up. What did shock me was hearing people chatting again about those bygone years. One student said, "I think changing your university app just to be together is really romantic." A young girl turned to who was probably her boyfriend and asked, "If it were you, would you do that for me?" He paused, then countered, "What about you? Would you do it for me?" I stopped, turned to them, and smiled gently. Your future and your love life? They're not inherently at odds. If you really like someone, don't give up your prospects. You gotta grab every chance even tighter. People's hearts change fast. You need to be strong enough that they've got no better option, and you are. Only then can you call the shots. Don't you think? Stepping out of the school gates, I saw a long silent group chat come alive. Someone suggested organizing a class reunion. Everyone was in. Coincidentally, the venue? Same private room as our graduation party. Luck's a weird thing. David had just finished promoting his new drama and rushed back in time. Superstar vibes, posters all over the city. He instantly became the center of attention. Female classmates asked for autographs, others wanted pics. David smiled and played along. Then Freya, late as usual, walked up to him and softly said, "Long time no see." Chapter 12. 8 years is a long damn time. David's parents never moved. After the college exam, he stumbled into the film and TV world, blew up overnight, and got so packed he barely came back. Even home visits were rushed. So he hadn't seen Freya in all those years, though his parents filled him in. After the perforated eardrum incident, her hearing was permanently damaged. Graduating, she faced discrimination at every turn and ended up back in her hometown, just scraping by. I remembered her on stage in our past life, singing under lights. She wasn't as dazzling as David, but people admired her. But the gap between them was massive. Even if they met, there was almost nothing to say. And that's exactly what happened. David was back to take his parents away, might never return. Others asked in surprise, "Does that mean we'll never see you again?" Freya smiled softly, lips curved. "How could we not? He's everywhere." David smiled but stayed quiet. If nothing crazy happened, that'd be the end of their story. Hard to tell when they started drifting apart. No big drama, no grand farewell. Just a slow realization that the real separation had started years ago in some ordinary moment. Someone who loved stirring the pot laughed, "Back then we all thought you two would end up together. Who wouldn't ship childhood sweethearts?" Too bad Makoto transferred in later. Suddenly, everyone noticed Makoto was gone. My hand paused mid-glass lift. Earliest memory of him? First transfer day. Timid, awkward, doodling, keeping distance. Failed an exam? Back next day with bruises, still too scared to ask the teacher anything, just clutching the failing paper and wiping tears quietly. I had spoken up, "Hey man, don't get stuck. I'll teach you." Later, someone rushed in saying David got in a conflict. I called out, "Willow, help the new student with this." She turned, Makoto looked up. Memory cut. Someone tilted their head. "You guys don't know? After he eloped with that girl, no financial support. He barely worked. That girl cheated on him. He hit her in a rage. She miscarried. Parents came with dozens of people, broke his leg, blinded one eye. Same ending as last life. Mentioning Willow? Inevitable. Makoto went to see her. She coldly said, "So what if we were classmates? What does it matter?" I put down my glass, looked at the woman who'd been silent all along, same as first day of middle school, sitting by the window. Chapter 13. Compared to David and Freya, the ultimate childhood sweethearts, Willow and I, just deskmates. Shallow. Even the evenly matched ship died after she confessed to Makoto. Everyone assumed my feelings were harmless fun. They had no clue I truly liked her. Liked her enough to compromise over and over in my past life. Trusted her so much I ignored every red flag. After a few drinks, I stepped out to the terrace. Willow came up beside me. Her face? Almost the same as 8 years ago, minus that old pride and confidence. We never really had a chance again. Congrats, President Wang. You made your dream happen. Middle school dreams flashed. She wanted to be an accomplished teacher. I joked I'd become an ultra-rich CEO so she'd have funding. Later we both did it. I invested in her projects without a second thought. When she asked if I feared loss, I said, "Nah. As long as you love me, nothing counts as failure." Thinking back now, I really was the failure. Memory and reality overlapped. She whispered, "I'm sorry." So, almost imagined. She met my gaze. After a pause, sounds stupid, but that year in the car accident, almost dying, I felt like I entered another world. There we went to the same university, ended up together. You were an entrepreneur, I a master supervisor. You even proposed. I cut her off. She smiled, strained. As I turned to leave, she whispered, "George, if I hadn't changed my university app, would we have ended up together?" "No," I said, no hesitation. A cheer erupted inside, cutting her off. Door opened. Not aggressive troublemakers this time, but Anna, the tall, elegant investment partner. I heard President Wang is here for the reunion. I'll cover all expenses. Enjoy. David, used to attention, smiled. Miss Anna, generous as always. Not worried about investment failure. How could I be not? She said seriously. Investment is risk. Only mutual benefit is worth it. Everyone laughed, calling my name. Breeze lifted Willow's skirt. I stepped back, expression cooling. Next time we meet, I said calmly, no need to come say hi. Chapter 14. After the reunion, David and I left by car. In a tunnel, another car approached. Glimpsed two figures, one rubbing temples, exhausted. The other leaned back, eyes closed. Blinked, turned, gun. David flipped through his script. What you looking at? Tunnel light spilled in. I shook my head. Years ago, whispers about Willow, Freya, Makoto, and even David and me. Typical campus drama. Those two are male supporting roles, love but can't have. I leaned over, smiled. Really? That story's too narrow. World's huge. Life's long. No one's just someone else's supporting role, including you talking about us right now. We're the protagonists of our own lives. Why settle for being extras in someone else's story?